talk about a couple of tips on how to get stronger. And I mean, this is obviously for anyone's sake. You pick your own strength goal. So I'm going to relate back to a few weightlifting ways to get stronger. You can apply the exact same thing to gymnastics. So if your gymnastics want to get stronger, you want to do more pull-ups and dips and do those in weighted, but the same rep ranges and the same things sort of apply. So don't just think because I'm talking about the word squat, you can't think, okay, well, I'm fine with my lower body getting stronger or my entire whatever core and things getting stronger. Just because you squat, that doesn't only make your legs stronger, and that doesn't mean that I can't relate that to something else. So like I said, this can relate exactly like how I did my video about the clean. It can relate to the snatch, just because I talk about a common weightlifting theme, let's call it that. That doesn't mean that you can't apply the same thing to a gymnastics theme. There we go. Got some words today on Friday. Yes. Okay, so the common struggles of what people are struggling with when it comes to getting stronger, as well as obviously how to fix that. So the first thing I wanted to speak about was the difference between machines and free weights, and I'm not hating on anyone, I'm not shooting fire at anyone for doing machine training. All I'm trying to say is that you get stronger from doing free weights and compound movements. So free weights teaches you good technique, because you're not forced to go the exact same alignment as the machine. So take, for example, a free weight squat compared to a Smith machine squat. The Smith machine squat obviously has its own benefits for the sake of, if you are a beginner, you are wanting to do something, you can definitely start off and do some form of training on the Smith machine, whether it be you are protecting injuries or you haven't been taught correct form yet, or whatever the case may be. I highly suggest you get onto a free weight squat or a body weight squat obviously as quickly as possible, whether it be learning by yourself or obviously learning through a coach. A free weight compound movement is obviously a fantastic way to get stronger. So what I mean, like I said, by free weights is using barbells, using dumbbells, using kettlebells. It teaches you correct alignment, so the way that you should squat without obviously, like I said, being forced into a specific position by a machine. And just the strength wise of the actual movement. So with a free weight, you can hold it in different ways. You can work unilateral movements by, say, doing overhead lunges, doing front rack lunges, doing back rack lunges. That obviously changes that perspective as well as the actual movement. So compound movement, meaning big movements that are moving more than one body part at a time. And when I mean, say, lunge, you're obviously using a lot of glutes, hamstrings, and quads, whereas, say, a leg press obviously isolates to one muscle at a time. Like I said, don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing machine weights. All I'm trying to say is that you want to get stronger, you want to use free weights. Isolated or machine training is fantastic for isolating those specific muscles because of injuries or because of weaknesses and things like that. So that's where I love machine training. If I've got a torn hamstring, I can still work my calves, I can still work my quads, or whatever the case may be. I don't have to squat and risk hurting my hamstring. So compound movements for getting stronger, free weight movements for getting stronger. What I want to speak about is what compound movements. So squats, deadlift, press are obviously your Olympic, powerlifting movements, sorry. Your clean is your weightlifting. Those are big movements. Those are moving loads of muscles at the same time, and then at that stage you're obviously getting stronger in multiple parts. The problem with isolated training is the fact that you come in and you only work hamstrings and quads, or you only work back, or you only work bars and tries. Those muscle parts are only sort of good in that sort of sense by themselves. So in plain sight, if I want to then go and train for 2 hours, and then I wonder why I can't play a good game of soccer, it's because I haven't been working those muscles in the same way I play soccer. I'm using big body parts to play a sport, whereas I'm isolating every single little muscle by itself, so it only learns to work by itself efficiently. Whereas if you're using big compound movements, that has a massive carryover to, say, moving, so carrying furniture, playing sports. Obviously that's a big thing. Living life, so you suddenly learn how to pick things up because you've learned the correct form of deadlifting. You've learned how to sit down effectively because you've learned how to squat. You've learned how to put stuff over your head effectively because you've learned how to press and push press and things like that. So using big muscles, using compound movements, using free weights allows that massive transfer over to be able to not only get stronger in general, but get stronger in life, in functioning properly. It's using a lot more stabilizers, and it's teaching you great form so that you don't risk injury later on. So in saying that, learning proper form is again the reason why you want to get a little bit stronger as well, is because that's got a massive carryover to not getting injured, which we obviously have a big thing with. Again, if you're using machine training, you sort of forced into the position where you're not going to get injured because you're using the alignment of the machine. So as long as you basically rely on the machine, you don't have to learn anything. Whereas if you learn the proper technique, you learn that doesn't feel right, that doesn't feel right. I'm going to do that because that feels right. And that's obviously a hard part, guys, and I don't want to make that seem easy. Learning proper technique takes ages. Like, I've been learning free weight compound movements. I've been doing this sort of training for, I think I'm going on to about 6 years, and I still appreciate help from other coaches, and I still appreciate a second eye from different people, because you can constantly learn, you can constantly create a bad habit, you constantly have to fix those bad habits. So don't, like, when I say, oh yeah, one thing about getting stronger is learning good technique, that's not just like a la-di-da fact, that's like a whole nother thing. So learning proper technique obviously comes with great benefits because it works your nervous system, so you're repeating this line of action over and over again, which, like I said earlier, has a great carryover to now putting that into play of living life. So I'm going to deadlift the same way, I'm going to pick up a heavy couch, I'm going to sit down the same way I'd squat because I know it's safe, I know that these movements are safer. Whether you're squatting 5 kilos or 150 kilos, you've got the same line of action, which means that it's safe, it's going to prevent injuries. And you're learning a skill, obviously. Like I said, you're learning something, so no matter what you're picking up, what you're doing, what you're moving with, it's a skill that now you've imprinted into your mind to make sure that you stay safe through those movement patterns. Low reps, obviously a big thing about getting stronger is not doing 50, 60, 70 reps at a time. You obviously want to pull that back and do much lower rep ranges, and I'm thinking, and I say this lightly because it very much depends on your fitness level, between reps of 1 to 10. I'd even narrow that down a little bit more, but I don't like specifying things like that because I don't want beginners specifically doing 1 rep maxes sort of on their first week or something. I obviously want to make sure that, again, we go back, you've learned proper technique, you've built up safely to be able to use a heavy weight. So with caution, use lower rep ranges. Again, I can change that to the same way of lower rep ranges. You can, as a beginner, use lower weight and then slow the movement down. So I speak about tempo, I speak about pauses, I speak about those sort of movements a lot because you can build amazing strength from that. So squat with a slow tempo on the way down, pause for 3 seconds at the bottom, and then explode up. That's going to build amazing strength in very weak positions, which which is amazing. Like I can't exaggerate how great those are for you. Again, I pull that back to a gymnastics form. I can do the exact same thing in a pull-up. I can pull up to the top, I can hold at the top for 3 seconds, and I can lower myself down in 3 seconds. And that's just going to build like incredible strength for then your gymnastics. So lower rep ranges, we're thinking higher weights. So if you've got a percentage, so if you have done 1 rep maxes before, you sort of know what I'm talking about when I talk about 1 rep max percentages. You're mainly working between that 60 to 80% bracket. If you're on a proper training program, or if you go through training programs with myself or other coaches, you'll realize that you're working between the 60 to 80% bracket. Every now and again you'll go into 90%, you'll go back to 60 to 80%, and then you'll PB, and you'll go 100%, 110%, then you'll restart the training program. 60 to 80%, that percentage will now be higher because you've got a higher 1 rep max. Touch on that 90% every now and again, and then come back, PB, start the cycle all over again. And this is like anywhere between 6 to 12 week cycles, guys. So again, when I say you touch on that 90%, that's like maybe 2 or 3 times in a 10-week program, obviously depending on the program. But people that think that they are going to hit 90% all the time, it's just not going to happen. 90%, 95%, I mean, I'm sometimes lucky if on a day where I've had a tough week, I maybe haven't slept all the way, I'm sometimes lucky to hit 85%. So it really just depends, and don't freak yourself out if one day, especially as a female, but that's a whole nother topic altogether, one day you're like, wow, 90% feels amazing, I feel like I could PB, and then the next week you're struggling through sets of 80%. So that's very much on the cycle. I don't want to get too much into that, but how to get stronger: lower your rep ranges, higher your weight with caution, of good form. I'm trying to like absorb as much, like keep it down to a simplified matter as much as possible. Warm up properly. Oh my gosh, guys, do loads of sets. So let's just say today is back squat for me today. I'm gonna do up to about 10 sets to warm up effectively, and that's, I mean, I'm actually only thinking about squats now. Obviously you do your general warm up, so you can do skipping, you can do a few heaven and earth lunges, you can do a few wall squats, you can do a few hip raises. Like, that's completely general stuff to basically just warm up. And then as you start getting onto a more specific warm up, you go 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%. Obviously I'm speaking about those percentages again, but in other words, super light, like empty barbell light, then a little bit of weight, a little bit more weight, a little bit more weight, until you get to that heavy set where I'm doing sets of 3. Then I'm like, oof, this is heavy, but I've prepared my body for it, I've prepared myself mentally for it. I haven't just slammed on 70 kilos, going from an empty barbell to like 80% in like 1 or 2 goes. Warming up effectively is very important, not just for the obvious fact of not injuring yourself, but for activation, guys. So it's very important to make sure that you are warmed up and those muscles are actually awake, the blood is there, they are ready to work, and they are activated to make sure that they can do their jobs effectively. Adding weight, again, I speak about adding weight with caution, so I go back to that lower rep ranges, adding weight. If you are on a training program, or if you are not, if you obviously just have general, you just want general knowledge of how to get stronger, you would then do, for example, 1 week, 6 sets of 5 on 70%, and then the next week you would go 4 sets of 5 on 65% or 70%, whatever the case may be. You would start upping a 70% and 75%, sorry, I jumped to 60%, no. So you want to make sure that you're actually adding weight. And again, I obviously say that in very much of caution. Don't add weight if you don't have proper technique. I'll keep repeating that because it's extremely important. But it doesn't again have to be, oh, this week I did 60 kilos, so next week I have to do 70 kilos. No, definitely not. 60 kilos, 62 kilos, 63 kilos, obviously what you or your gym can allow, but don't think that these jumps have to be big. What we're wanting to do is just keep constantly challenging that nervous system, keep producing force. So we want to make sure that your body can move with more challenging weights. So don't just keep doing your same 5x5 at 70%, because your body's going to stop adapting to that. So your body's not going to like register that as exercise anymore. So it's going to seem more like you doing washing. It's going to be like, well, I've done this 1,000 times. This isn't challenging anymore. So even if it's little bits, with good quality, with good form, slowly start adding weights, lower the reps as you add the weights as well. Second last one is limit your exercise selection, and this is a big one, especially for beginners as well. You want to go out and do everything that the world possibly can give you, because your friend's telling you that you need to do cleans, and then your internet is telling you need to do kettlebell swings, and then your other friend tells you, but I started doing deadlifts and I got an amazing result from that, and then you hear again that you need to do loads of sit-ups, and then eventually your list is like 30 pages long, and you're like, how am I supposed to get through all of this? No, don't. So you want to get stronger, you pick a goal. I want to get stronger in my squat. I'm going to do squat, deadlift, and clean. That's all I'm going to do. Obviously, I'm going to do accessory movements in between, and again, that's going to be a limited selection as well. But to strengthen something, I'm not going to do 70,000 exercises around that. I'm going to decide I'm going onto a weightlifting program. I'm going to improve my clean and jerk, or my clean and jerk and snatch. I'm getting a little bit complicated again. I'm going onto a squat program. I'm going to focus on squats. I'm going to pick 4 exercises that I'm going to cycle through on different days. And I want to touch on that a little bit more, because I don't want you to feel pressured by the fact that you have to choose something. So in the beginning, you might just want overall fitness, and that's okay. That's absolutely fine. Throw in a couple workouts in between that. So my main goal at the moment is that I want to improve my squat. I'm going to focus on that 3 times a week, and then the other 2 times a week I'm going to do cardio to obviously flush the system. So don't, when I say pick 4 movements and that's like the holy grail, that's all you can do, that's not what I mean. I'm just meaning that those are the main focus, and then there's secondary focuses around that. So I don't want everyone just squatting all day, every day. That's not what I'm meaning at all. And then the last is eat protein. I'm hearing so many people at the moment saying that they want to get stronger, but they're only eating like 1,000 calories a day. And I'm like, I don't even think that's enough for you to actually function as a full functioning human being. So you definitely want, if you want to lose weight, let's get this straight, if you want to lose weight, you obviously need to be in a calorie deficit, but you need to be eating good wholesome foods to make sure that you're recovering effectively, and that you are getting those good wholesome foods to recover and then to go back into your training. So just because I'm in a calorie deficit, that still doesn't mean I just want to sit around and eat McDonald's fries all day, because that's not going to give what my body needs to recover and then to put back into my training. So good wholesome foods, that's a whole nother topic altogether, but we know things that are ideally not packaged, to say the least. So meats, vegetables, nuts, seeds, things like that. And then I touch on carbs, because it's just so important, guys. It's so important to put that into your training. Once you've trained, and you've trained hard, I mean, regardless of what hard is, you've trained, your body needs to recover. It needs carbs to recover. So, and I've touched on this before, that once you've exercised, you've drained your energy stores. You have to replenish those. Your body is going to take that from somewhere, and it's not going to be from a good place if you don't give it what it needs. Once you've exercised, your brain, your muscles, and your liver desperately need carbs. They need that energy because you've got a natural energy store supply in your body, in your system. So once you've exercised, I hear a lot of people saying just eat protein. Your body doesn't only want protein after it's exercised. It definitely wants protein later on because it obviously needs protein to recover, but it desperately needs to get those energy stores up. So make sure that you eat protein and carbs after your training, but eat protein in general to obviously recover and get stronger. I hope that that's touched on everything. I feel like I've spoken for a long time and I've somewhat tried to keep it simple, but I know it's not always a simple task. I'm going to just quickly recap on the key points. So, tips to get stronger. Use free weights and do compound movements. Learn proper technique, and I'll put a big massive circle with 1,000 explanations around that. Use lower rep ranges, warm up properly, add weight as you go, limit your exercise selection, so limit the movements that you're wanting to do, focus on one main goal, and then limit your selection to that, and then eat protein/carbs as well. Have an awesome Friday, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any more questions, or if you are very confused about something that I touched on that maybe didn't make that much sense to you, please pop your questions in the comments. I'm very happy to help. And let me know. Have a good weekend. Happy Friday. Bye, guys.